So the last time Guts and Casca were together as a couple was shortly before the event that would change their lives forever. The horrendous demon-infested eclipse, in which would cost Guts an arm and an eye, and would cost Casca the violation of her very body and the loss of her sense of self, causing her to sink into a deep state of regression, for which would last 27 volumes worth of content and 22 years in our real time. The last few chapters focused heavily on the revival of Casca's mental state, traveling to the magical realm of Elfhelm, meeting dozens of new, colorful characters, including the Flower Storm monarch Danan, the ruler of the island, and practitioner in the healing magics, such as the Corridor of Dreams. Shirake and Farnese put their training to the test as they entered the dark and desolate landscapes of Casca's tormented psyche, unlocking deeply hidden memories and gaining a full understanding of what exactly Casca and even Guts went through to get them to this point. Miraculously, against all odds, Farnese being the one to make the final decision on the matter, they were able to restore Casca's mind, her eyes opening in the real world, bringing with her the lost sense of self that had been sleeping within her for so long. It was one of the most glorious and satisfying moments in the entire manga, and what needed to come next was, of course, the long-awaited reunion between Guts and Casca, having them actually be able to speak to one another. As Casca is given a beautiful new dress and awaits outside the giant spirit tree for her protector, the first glimpse of Guts has more memories flood into her mind of that fateful day, causing her to scream in terror, envisioning the brutal truth of what she had experienced. The chapter ends, and fans awaited the next chapter with anticipation, as they wondered what would happen next. Would Casca awake in Guts' arms as he tries to comfort her? Would Guts be struck with fear and confusion himself? Will Casca be able to speak out about her assault? There were so many questions. Everything had built to this moment, and then the next chapter cuts to something completely different, and we get to see a bunch of giants. Yay! This is what everybody secretly really wanted. Big, monstrous creatures that dressed with the bones of humans that they had killed, using shields as kneecaps, and my favorite is this guy with a boat on top of his head wielding a swinging anchor like a chain scythe. That's pretty awesome. But who could these big boys be going up against? That's right, it can only mean one thing. Yes, boys and girls, we got ourselves some Griffith chapters.
And there was much rejoicing.
Okay, in Miura's defense, ever since the beginning of the Millennium Empire arc, he has taken the narrative to switch between the Guts story and the Griffith story. This was commonplace in the Millennium Empire, where we would see chapters showcasing Griffith rebuilding the Band of the Hawk and fighting against the Kushan until his inevitable victory against Ganishka. Even the Fantasia arc has already had one break to go to the Griffith side of things. Only that break showcased Ricker as our main character arriving in Falconia, and even though it wasn't from Griffith's perspective, it was still showing us exactly what life is like now, both in the world at large and within the royal city. We saw how the world had been overrun with monsters, and living outside Falconia is a desperate struggle for survival against them. However, within the walls of the city, people are safe, work in harmony, and praise their messiah, showing them literal proof of the afterlife, and letting them say goodbye to their loved ones. So, despite seeing very little of Griffith, we still got a good sense of how things are running. Well, now we're going to see what else Griffith is actually doing other than just sitting in luxury and banging Princess Charlotte on the regular, which apparently isn't happening as often as it would be if I was with Charlotte, but that's another story. Anyway, first we have to see what Griffith and his army are going to do against these giants, which are actually called the Jotun, which comes from Old Norse mythology, though not specifically speaking of giants, more so something meant to describe a being exceedingly beautiful or exceedingly grotesque. And I don't know about you, but Boatman is pretty beautiful to me. So who did Griffith bring to fight these guys? Well, he's got a bunch of no-name apostles, some human knights. Grunbeld is here, that's cool I guess. He should have died a long time ago if you ask me, but I think we all know who really matters here. Motherfucking Zod! So the two forces charge at each other, and it's a pretty entertaining battle that ensues. We see that Sir Laban is here, and Mule is fighting as well. Sonia is also here doing what she does best, using her medium abilities to warn the soldiers of oncoming threats mid-battle. Look, if there's one thing Griffith was an absolute master of back in his human days, it was battle strategy during war. And here, as a god hand in disguise, and for all intents and purposes, a king of the people, he's exactly who you would want to have leading you in a battle against the giants. But the Jotuns seem to have more intelligence than the average astral monster. The leader looks like fucking Conan of the giants, and also, is that a dinosaur skull behind him? Please, Miura, for the love of all that is holy, please let me see some dinosaurs in Berserk at some point. That would be amazing. But anyway, the Jotun leader also has trolls on leashes, which is pretty awesome, and even commands a Hydra, which, if we're going by size scaling here, the Hydra is about 3 times taller than the Jotun, so this thing is absolutely massive. I mean, it's not quite sea god Shiva form Ganishka size, but way bigger than the usual astral creatures we see in the story. So who has got the balls to take on this Hydra? Say it with me one more time, you guys. Mother fucking Zod! Oh, also Irvine and Grunbell jump in. I guess you could consider them Griffith's A-team. And with the 3 of them working together, literally the Hydra turns out to be no threat at all. It's teamwork. Griffith also uses Grunbell's size as cover, runs up his back, and delivers the killing blow to the Jotun leader right in his eye. Come to think of it, Griffith has always enjoyed this eye kill, hasn't he? Griffith stands victorious in this absolutely amazing double-page spread of art. So the abrupt shift to the Griffith chapters portion is off to an intense start. And really it's similar to the formula of the Millennium Empire arc, but why was this cutaway so bothersome to so many people? Was it just because fans were expecting the Guts Casca reunion right away? Well, Miura has plenty of times giving you things you didn't expect and wound up tying it all in later. I think the true enemy here is, of course, the hiatus. There was a pretty consistent flow of chapters regarding Casca's revival back in 2018. In fact, these 2 chapters came out the following months after. But after that, it was from August 2018 until April 2019 before another chapter was released. 8 months of wait, and when it returned, we were still in the Griffith chapters portion. Now, 3 Griffith chapters while reading consecutively, especially when the first one is all action with barely any dialogue, isn't that bad. And then, minor spoiler for upcoming chapters if you aren't caught up, it cuts back to Guts and Casca after that. We still don't get a reunion per se, but it's only a 3-chapter gap. But it was also a 17-month gap in real time. The gaps between chapters is what's frustrating people and what gives the illusion that the Fantasia arc is weak. But there are actually a lot of amazing things happening in this arc, it's just that people forget and begin to not care over time. Let me give you an example. So if you started high school when Guts landed on Elfhelm, you would be in your 2nd year of college right now. Or if you didn't go to college like me, maybe you'd be wasting your 20s trying to get laid. Whatever the case, a lot of time has happened in the real world as we wait for chapters. But maybe it's all meant to be a meta thing. We know that time moves faster on the outside of Elfhelm, so maybe Miura is trolling us all and giving us an example of how much time is happening in the real world while Guts and company are on Elfhelm. I will seriously laugh my ass off if he decides that the time gap is going to be the same exact amount of time that the manga was focused on the island. To that, I would say, bravo, Miura, you're a genius. But anyway, back to the story. Griffith asks Sonia to send a telepathic image of his victory to everyone that's involved. Oh, and if you're wondering why astral monsters are fighting against Griffith, well, there's a definite difference between them and, let's say, apostles. Apostles are subservient to the God Hand, or at least unable to truly oppose them. Ganishka tried with all of his might and was still brought to his knees. Astral creatures, on the other hand, were brought into being by being manifestations of humanity's fears and insecurities. Because rumors and terror circulate in the minds of mankind, the monsters continue to exist. But now those monsters are brought into the physical, real world. So they have no concept or obedience to the God Hand, who were at one point human. But as the conversation after the battle seems to imply, Griffith was attempting to take back even more territory outside the walls of Falconia. So the question is now, for what purpose? Well, the answer can lie in the Stonehenge-inspired backdrop. By the way, Guts once rested here back in the Conviction arc. Which makes me really wish that Miura would come up with a map of the Berserk landscape. I think that would be really useful to a lot of fans. But anyway, by reassembling the stones, Griffith essentially recreates something that most likely was here 1,000 years ago during Geyserich's reign. And this is a way to instantly transport from one location to the other. The stones kind of act as a magical gateway that connect to the branches of the World Tree. The World Tree is the thing linking the physical and astral worlds together, but its branches now traverse the sky, and they can actually be used kind of like a wormhole for transportation. Instantly, the entire military group flies across the sky, arriving safely back in Falconia. And we have actually seen this used once before. When the Moonlight Boy last left Guts and company, it left by means of one of these branches. But there are some limitations, because Sonia mentions that regular people can't use them without the help of a divine being like Griffith or a medium such as herself. It's just another thing that gives her something that only her and Griffith can do together. And if her fangirling wasn't enough, this very telling bit of dialogue where Sonia says that she would race to the ends of the earth if Griffith called. Ends of the earth. Elfhelm? We'll get to that. Next, we get a nice dose of politics. Griffith sits with his council, which looks to consist of Locust, Laban, Owen, who did not get a haircut. Whatever, he's still a champ. Oh, and look, Minister Foss is here, still in a position of importance. He owes a lot to Griffith, who once spared his life after an assassination attempt. No hard feelings, I'm sure. They speak about how the numerous people and different kinds of people entering the city at an alarming rate are causing some conflict between the citizens. Which makes sense. Imagine all different people from all different walks of life being herded into a cage. Into a sanctuary. Well, it may be too soon to see the intent Miura has for all of this, but remember the Tower of Conviction and the mass collection of people, and their negative energy manifesting into a blob of restless souls that eventually crashed the whole thing down and gave way to Griffith's incarnation? If there is indeed more sinister purpose here in store for the residents of Falconia, this could all be part of the plan, and the easy path of the beam to escape that only Griffith can really use might all be connected. Princess Charlotte is also here on the council, promoting orphanages and education for lost children and commoners, to which the nobles, used to dealing with this sort of thing, reject as an impossibility considering their funding. But Griffith sticks up for his woman, which is pretty cool, and tells them to do it anyway, and that it's better to continue to thrive with people realizing the support of the government. What I get out of this is simply, it's kind of like indoctrination. You want everyone, no matter how poor or unequipped, to be willing to die for your nation, or at least believe it's the best place on earth. As well, the more you rely on the government, the more power it gives them. It's all politics, man, and Guts would seriously be rolling his eyes at this point. The next thing Griffith talks about is including refugees into the ranks of military and construction, giving everybody a purpose and trying to keep everybody on the same path. That of expanding and empowering the glory of Falconia. He's even creating long highways that would lead to the city, wants to create bases outside of it, and even mentions building a second empire. Like every great warlord in history, it appears that Griffith is attempting a global domination. And just like Guts said in previous chapters, that's who Griffith is deep down. He will keep soaring higher and higher no matter the situation. Griffith can even use the astral monsters to his benefit as they are out there destroying all of civilization, and then Griffith can come in, wipe out the monsters, and continue to build, and look like a hero while doing it. And it's actually pretty genius. After the meeting, Mule and Sonia wait for Griffith. Sonia begins to go to him, but Charlotte gets there first in an epic cockblock. Charlotte thanks Griffith for sticking up for her and spouts that he is the father of this kingdom, like a king. But remember, the Pontiff has yet to officially marry Griffith and Charlotte. What the hell he's waiting for, I'm not sure. The old dude could probably die any second. But Griffith isn't technically the king yet. But anyway, Charlotte tells Griffith she'll be going to her room to relax with some tea. And every man knows that when a girl says she's going to her room for some tea, what she really means is she wants to go to her room and get the D. Sonia tries to stop them by saying that they should all hang out together, but Mule pulls her away, doing Griffith a solid so that he can go have some alone time. Sadly, this time we do not get to see Griffith take Charlotte to Pound Town, but the aftermath has her out like a light, similar to last time, And though we don't know if Griffith thought about Guts the entire time like he did when he was human, we perhaps get the most telling moment ever with Griffith at the windowsill. Griffith sits looking at his hair, which is normally drawn pure white, but this image specifically has dark strands of black hair. Griffith has inner monologue that we almost never see. The most rare thing in Berserk, besides consistent chapter releases, is being able to read what happens in Griffith's head, and he thinks that, again, this will be the night, and then disappears from the windowsill. Now look, I have reviewed every single chapter since this one individually. This is the chapter where I caught up to Berserk for the first time when I was reading it. And, you know, this manga analysis series has been one of the most fun things that I've ever done on this channel. But I'm at a bit of a crossroads as to how to continue it from here. To talk about the ending of this chapter, I have to talk about spoilers for the 5 chapters that have been released after this. And good lord, there's only been 5 Berserk chapters since I got into it. Anyway, what we can assume this is confirming is that yes, Griffith and the Moonlight Boy do share a body. Griffith looking at his hair turning black, saying again, confirms it enough, but 5 chapters from now, spoiler, the Moonlight Boy shows up on Elfhelm, most likely getting there through the World Tree branches. You can't get more clear-cut than that until Griffith states it verbally. I mean, come on. The question will be, will Sonya follow him? Griffith can use the World Tree branches to travel across the globe. If he goes to Elfhelm as the boy, will Sonya follow? And will she bring reinforcements? And that's kind of my theory anyway. But like I said, I'm at a bit of a crossroads as to how to continue the manga analysis series now, since I have already reviewed the remaining chapters. Now, I could just do an analysis video of the remaining chapters and have this YouTube series be all up to date, or I could wait until volume 41 comes out and begin to do the analysis series volume by volume for the rest of Berserk's run. This would make it a lot easier to do and give me good chunks of chapters to put out. But this would also mean you would only get a new video in the series probably every 2 to 3 years. But it would be easy enough to stay on track and continue. I don't know. You guys let me know in the comments. Do you want one more manga analysis to catch up with all the chapters, or wait and do the analysis series from now on, volume by volume, for more content? You guys tell me in the comments below. But I do want to say thank you so much for watching all of these videos. I had like 300 subscribers when I began to do this series, and now I'm at 56,000. It's been a few years, and I know that this is one of the main reasons that you guys stuck around and helped me get this far. I hope that even if this analysis series needs to be put on hiatus itself, that you continue to stick around to my channel and check out my other content. I love Berserk. It's not just my favorite manga series, but my favorite fictional story of all time. But I also have lots of other interests. I review other manga, anime, movies, and have other content to bring you guys. I really truly appreciate any of the support that you give me, but I hope if this series pauses, you will still give me a chance in other endeavors and other videos. Also, if you want to support me or the channel growth, I do have a merch store linked down in the description of this video. You can literally get yourself a motherfucking Zod t-shirt, hoodie, or mug, along with lots of other cool designs and items. I also have a Patreon with various tiers and perks attached to them that you can check out. And besides that, just like and comment on the videos to help in the algorithm, and subscribe to the channel if you're not already. Thank you again, guys, for coming along with me on this journey. I really do appreciate each and every one of you, and I hope you have an amazing rest of your day, and I'll talk to you soon.